place. Get ready to be challenged, inspired, and transformed. And now, to guide you through this journey of discovery, please welcome your host, a visionary leader and a true catalyst for change, Dwayne Dwyer, but we affectionately know him as the Mindset Coach.
I felt like it was a comedy moment getting ready to happen. I'm like, gotcha, not Dwayne Dwyer, but I am Salami Gaddy, also known as the son of Timothy. As you all know, also go by the Available Man. I am your host for tonight's conversation. Here joined with my brothers, my big brothers. Of course, you know the mindset coach himself, Mr. Dwayne Dwyer. My my big brother right below me, uh, with a poor man's Dr. Phil, also known as Shift Happens. Uh, and Uncle Junior, the man himself, the consistency coach. We are here ready to dive into this great conversation. Brothers, how are y'all feeling this Friday morning? Evening. I'm sorry. Time all Jackson.
All is well, man. I'm great. I'm great. Good to see everyone's smiling face on this beautiful Friday evening. Always awesome to be able to partake in conversation with my brothers. And as always awesome to see the livest chat on social media. So all is well with me.
And it's a great day anytime I get to be on here with you brothers. It's a long day. So you tried to take me back to the morning. I was like, I got to do it again. Thought it was Groundhog Day, but no, it's a great day. I get to be here with y'all, listen to the chat, look at them, and see what they have to say, all the insight, and just glean from you guys.
I'm doing well. A lot of times we hear people say life is short, but the reality of it is, if you look at it in the expansion of how long man has been around, and most of us are here for under 100 years, we're only here for a blink of an eye. So I just say that to everyone here on the panel and everyone in the chat or anyone who may be watching on whatever platform, love on somebody today. Again, tomorrow is not promised. And I know a lot of times we wake up and, we get on our day, we go check our cell phone, we go for a run, we go to the bathroom, different things like that. So I would encourage you, whoever listening today, just check on somebody. You never know who or what someone is going through. So, yeah, just check on somebody you may not have checked on in a while.
And I love it. I love it. I my feelings of how I feel today is, toys and trials come every day, but it's how we triumph through it. And I'm just blessed to be able to end off my week talking with my brothers, having this great conversation. And I don't know about you all, but I'm ready to get into it. Y'all ready to get into it? Let's go. So, have you ever found yourself holding back in a relationship, afraid to express your true feelings, or consistently seeking validation from your partner? If so, you're not alone. Insecurities is something that we all struggle with, and they can have a profound impact on our relationships, and often in ways that we don't even realize. But here's the good news. Today's conversation is exactly what you need to start breaking free from those chains of self-doubt and fear. So welcome to a space where we don't just talk about the problem, we also provide solutions. In this episode, we're diving deep into the heart of how insecurities affect our relationships, and more importantly, how you can begin to heal. We're going to explore the importance of open communication, the role of self awareness, and the powerful impact that personal growth can have on your love life. Whether you've been struggling with these issues for years or just beginning to recognize them, this is the place where you will find answers you've been searching for. And it doesn't stop there. We've also prepared a practical guide located in the show notes, designed to help you take actionable steps towards healing your insecurities and strengthen your relationship. This isn't just another talk. It's your roadmap to a more confident, secure, and fulfilling life. So get ready to take notes, reflect deeply, and most importantly, start your journey towards a healthier, happier relationship. So let's get started. So, brothers, before we dive deep into the conversation, we have to put out our disclaimer. Uh, all of us here, we believe that we are intellectual men. We believe we have something to say and something to give, but we are very aware that we are only masters of our own perspective, right? Everyone has an opinion, like my daddy used to say, like doorknob. I mean, but yes, it's like something else. Everyone has one. So, but we understand that, and we're here to give our perspective, and we ask and we pray that somebody here gets help and move forward. So, I want to start this conversation off before we dive into the questions. I want to know what are your uh, personal definitions of insecurity. Anyone is fine.
I see the smiles. A personal definition of insecurities. I think things that inwardly you don't want anyone else to know, things that you would like to be strong in, but you aren't so sure of yourself. You aren't too confident. And when it comes to insecurities, they're those things that are inherently you. It's not anyone else. No one can make you this. This is something that you need to work on. You need to gain some type of trust in so that you can feel like you can handle it. Because certain things we don't necessarily feel we can handle it on our own, or like we need something from the bottle. We need somebody to push us. We need encouragements and so forth because we aren't too sure or confident in an area.
I think it's like a feeling of, notice I said feeling of inadequacy or a lack of confidence, to kind of, really short definitions. That's kind of what I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna keep it short and sweet for right now.
I definitely agree with that. Confidence is the word that is consistent in these definitions. It is a lack of confidence in who I see myself as and what I see myself doing within the space or the environment that I find myself. It is a gap between my identity and the expression of that identity. So, because I don't have a clear identity of who I know, who I am, um, then what ends up happening, there's some gaps, there's some things about me that I'm not confident in. I am not confident in who I know myself to be. I am not confident in this particular role that I'm fulfilling. So the absence of that confidence based upon my identity creates insecurity in me. I am not secure, in who I know myself to be.
Man, I love those descriptions of insecurity, and I see the common theme, and I agree that the lack of confidence is the thing. Um, I, I I like to look at it in my own way, like if I'm confident that I'm going to mess up a thing, and so it creates this sense of I'm not good enough, or I need to get better, or I'm not handsome enough or talented enough, and so I shy away, or I'm waiting for something to propel me somewhere that I don't think I'm ready for. but if you put me there, I might jump and do the job. You know, and that's when I look at insecurities. You know, a lot of it leads into other conversations that we've had. You know, like imposter syndrome and stuff like that. I'm in the job and I'm doing it, but I'm just not confident that I have the full capability. Uh, would you agree how I summed it up a little bit? Um, so well, let's dive into this first topic then. Understanding the root of insecurity. I believe that we can we can come up with all kind of reasons why this happened or that happened, this going on, and we can start putting the blame game. But from your perspective, in what ways do early life experiences, such as childhood relationships with parents or significant events, uh, societal standards, and cultural expectations influence the insecurities we carry, particularly in the context of gender roles and relationships?
Hmm. Gender roles and relations. I think when I was growing up, I was I was a good student, and my parents would put that pressure on my sister. And so her striving to try to be like or to try to emulate or whatever, when it came to the grades, when it came to scholastics, it put an insecurity that she wasn't enough, that what she knew wasn't enough. If she didn't get all A's, it's like, oh, well, roll this, that, and the other, because now you have a sense of, I have to be perfect. And if I'm not perfect at it, then there's an insecurity in me because now I got to overcompensate in areas. I got to do certain things and mask my frustrations and anxieties. And now it causes other problems, like you said, the imposter syndrome and so forth and so on, because you're trying to be something that you're not, something you're striving to be like someone else and not like yourself. It's a never ending story of, dang, I got to be better. I got to be better. And you're pushing yourself to be better because you don't think you're good enough, because other people have placed that burden on you with the expectations that they have from other people.
I'm gonna go next, so Coach can clean me up. Um, I want to be transparent. I want to talk about something, but I don't want it to come off as being perverted. I want it to come off as informative and an answer to this question. So when we're talking about life experiences, um, I have been in contact with a lot of men in my 48 years. And one of the things that I have, when I've gotten, really close to guys, or, we start having conversations. And one of the things that has came up, not a lot, but a few times, and I think it actually happens more than often, is something called eggplant envy. All right. So I use that word because I don't want to get Coach's channel broke down by using other words. So I'll just use eggplant, but I think we know what we're talking about. So back in the day, you know what I mean? What I would do is I would talk about a particular client. All right. But I won't use any other, which kind of, like I said, I do coaching on the side. This client grew up, and when he grew up, he spent a lot of time watching porn, right? So in this watching the porn, what he saw was stars. Dudes who were well endowed. Dudes were doing and having their way with women, because he spent a lot of time watching these shows. Well, as he grew up and becoming an older man, he always felt insecure. And due to his insecurities, he's always felt like that there was never enough women that he could please. So to deal with the insecurities, his thought process was to spend a lot of time or be with a lot of women, right? That He's a black man. On top of that, another thing that is sometimes portrayed or often talked about in our culture is the fact that black men are very well endowed, or they have to be very well endowed in order to get certain types of women. So I think some of these things have breeded a certain level of insecurity in men, and that client in particular. But I also think it's something that goes on a little bit more in men, and men may just not talk about it. And I know I'm specifically targeting this to men, but this is just one area that I think that sometimes men go through and experience, and it's because of some of these experiences early on in life, and because of certain things that they see in the culture. So that's my 2 cents when it comes to how some of these insecurities can happen and can be a part of people's lives.
See what you did there. I feel like I just did I ran an in the park home run, and I had to slide in the home, and I'm safe. Um,
All right.
no, you get. However, as I was listening, because I'm struggling with some things, um, because I think it's okay for me to have an expectation of my child to behave. I don't think that is an insecurity, nor do I think that is projecting um, things on my child. Now, if I fast forward and I played football in high school, and my child is trying to figure out what they want to do in high school, and I'm pushing my child towards football, that would be more of an example of me projecting or really trying to live vicariously through my child. So I don't even think that's 100% in line either. I think when it comes down to early life experiences, let's look at childhood relationships. The first relationships that the child have is with the parent, i.e., specifically the mother, because the mother, believe it or not, is ultimately responsible for shaping that child's understanding of who the most high is in an early stage of their living. Not that the father is not a part of it or should not be a part of it, but the mother has more influence in the earlier years. But then, as that understanding comes along, there should be a progressive level of awareness that happens as well. So you understand who he is, the rewarder of good deeds or punisher of bad deeds. And then from there, you move forward to teaching them the law. And then from there, teaching them the necessity of Christ. Therefore, now they understand who they are in the Most High, understand that in their own self, in and within themselves, they are insufficient within themselves to complete the entire law. Therefore, the need for Christ becomes available for them at that point in understanding, and also the Holy Spirit. So now we should have within the scope of that level of development being taught in that facet a clear understanding. However, remove one parent from the scenario, now you start having insecurities. So that child now being raised up in the house to where the father is not available, that child is going to be insecure. I don't care what you do. I don't care how much you buy for that child. I don't care. Like my baby, that sounds really good. It really does sound good, but it takes both parents to help that child have a good idea of who they really are. That's it. I can't be mama. You can't be daddy. It's virtually impossible. So, especially when that child starts going to school and seeing other kids with both parents, things of that nature, that is a failed relationship in that child's life, and that child will have some type of backlash because of that. Especially if that child experienced both parents in the house at some particular point and they develop the relationship with the other one. Now, moving forward, you start looking at other events because you got to realize insecurity begot insecurity, right? So now that child having a little insecurity about their looks, about their height, about their weight, about their intelligences and all that other great stuff. And now you put them in the space of school. And y'all know kids ain't got no chill. So kids will say the first thing that come to their mind and could care less how you feel about it. That's why your mama fat. You know what I'm saying? All that great stuff. And at the end of the day, now that creates another level of insecurity in there because that might be true. And they see that. So, mom, you ain't got to come to you ain't got to get out the car. Just slow down about 5 and I dive in the window. You know what I'm saying? Don't slow. You know what I'm saying? So all of these things add up. And then when you start getting into the dating scene, oh, don't let Tyrone tell Tamika no, or Tamika tell Tyrone no. You know what I'm saying? That's where the letter, y'all remember what it was. Do you like me? Check yes, check no, check maybe. Maybe does not mean no. So, we good if we get a maybe. So all of these things factor in. And then now we add in societal standards. 6'4", six pack, drive a BMW, gotta have a nice house. And then because in your insecurities, you think you got to live up to that. Or, you got to have a slim waist. You got to be, what was it, Sir Mix-a-Lot, where he gave the dimensions in the song? I can't even remember what it is, right? So you think you got to live up to that. In the meantime, life is happening to you. You know what I'm saying? Life is taking its toll. Gravity is actually working, and it's going to keep on working regardless of how hard you train. Gravity is going to work. I'm sorry, it's happening. So now you're not looking like you did when you was in high school. You know what I'm saying? You ain't wearing that little 6 that you used to wear back then. You're probably wearing like a 16. It's okay. So I think when you start looking at all of these things being compounded, it's okay for that person. All these things being compounded, right? I think we have to be completely honest and transparent when it comes down to how these securities manifest itself in a person's life.
Man, I love it. Man, y'all said a lot. Y'all had me writing. Get my arthritis is starting to cramp now. So y'all said a lot of stuff. Unc started with exposure, right? And I think sometimes that's a conversation that's not much had. And so, do y'all believe that we we can be exposed to some things too early, or we expose our children to things, or is that more of a boundary thing? We don't have boundaries on our children anymore.
I think we don't necessarily teach our children how to handle situations and how to handle things. We try to remove any type of pain and friction so they don't know how to deal with adversity. And when you don't know how to deal with adversity, when little Johnny said, "You got a big old nose," now you want to change your nose. Now you see Michael Jackson, he went from the bell pepper and went to the little corn, piece of what's that, carrot or whatever. You can't. You got to allow your children to get beyond those things, because when adversity comes up against them, if you consistently save them from it, they don't build up, or they don't have a callous nature to where it's like, oh, they just talking. I'm beautiful as is. I don't have to have this. And that's why you see all these people on TV and the internet, you see them changing body parts. You see them doing all of this because they aren't happy with what they have initially. The Most High gave you a certain thing. If he wanted you to be a 2, when you doggone 32 years old, 35, 40, you would have been a 2. But you put 2 on top of that 2 and you're 22. And that's what you are. If you want to lose that, you can do some walking, you can do some things, but you still have to be happy internally before the external even matters. Because if the internal isn't satisfied with you, the external will never be satisfactory.
Yeah, can you repeat the question again? I want to make sure I heard it accurately.
And this is going based off of Unc's response about the client that was exposed to something that created an insecurity. And so, when it comes to our childhood development, do you believe that either us or even us as parents, do we expose our children to too much, or do we not have enough boundaries on our kids that create exposure? Like, what is the issue there?
Um, I'm reluctant to say that we expose our kids to too much too fast because society does it for us. Given Garfield's example, I do not believe, nor do I hope no parent exposed their child to those hidden bag in the closet with the old VHS tapes and stuff like that. I hope no child exposed that to their child. I hope no parent exposed that to their child. However, just being in the company of other kids around their age, talking about certain things, so forth and so on, those things expose it to the child. So I think in the space of it, what we should have exposed to the child is the ability to make accurate decisions in the environment that they find themselves in. So if you find yourselves in an environment that is talking about those things, having those conversations are not healthy for you because it's going to create a burning sensation inside you. And now, because you're thinking about that thing, you guys remember when we was in school, we came up with the acronym for Adidas, right? So that being said, because all day long I think about it, then that's the thing that you're going to end up doing. So if we don't teach them that at an early age, then society would teach them just the contrary.
Oh, you got anything? And I'm 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 with you. Actually, both of y'all on this one because I don't think that it's an exposure thing from the parent because a lot of times we say that, oh, y'all allows your kids to view this, or you allows your kids to view this. A lot a lot of times, in the parent uh space, the things that they see are more innocent. At least we try to be. I would assume that most parents are trying to expose your children at a young age to more innocent things. But the reality is that we're not around our children all the time, and some things are going to come up. And I said the first time I saw anything of that type, it wasn't at home. It was on my way to school. There was a store, and they dumped all these old magazines out the back, and one of the bags ripped. We saw it. We grabbed some of them. We put it in our book bag, and we ran to school. And we was like, "Oh, you look what I got!" Ha ha, showing other kids, you know, and 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 that was in middle school. But I definitely do agree. It's how we teach our children to handle things that they may or may not be exposed to. Um, and even then, I think some people would say you draw a fine line of exposing them to things, trying to protect them from things that they may not be exposed to. But I believe we have to teach our children how to be critical thinkers. Um, so I like that. Um, and Coach and Roland, y'all talked about rearing our children, and directing our children. And I just want to make sure I understand, 'cause when I'm listening to both of you, I get the idea that there's a fine line between instructing our children and projecting into our children. And in Roland's case, pushing them to be something that's not them, that don't fit their personality. Is, is that correct? I don't want to assume.
I wouldn't necessarily say pushing them because I think you should uh, push your children. You should expose your children to different things so that they can see where their passions may lie. But I think what we do as parents is like me, I'm a baseball, like baseball is my love. So all these kids want to play basketball and football. So I can say, no, y'all gonna get out here and play this, that, and the other, play baseball because it was a passion of mine. But if I just expose them to it, if I just show them a little something and then they see my passion, they may gravitate towards it. But when it comes to, we're looking at insecurities here. So if I'm pushing a child into something, I always think that it's the mother's job to train the child up to be a good person, to be a good follower of the Most High. It's the father's job to show them how to be a man, or if it's a girl, how to look, what to look for in a man. See, that's my job. So it's a dual role that what we play, but we have to make sure that we don't minimize how they see things. We have to water, they may see it this way, and simply because we were raised a certain way and we see it that way, and you know how we can be sometimes, but you have to also allow that child to look at things through their lens, and also be able to make conscious decisions about where they're trying to go, about what they're looking at, so that now we can have dialogue about it. And when you have dialogue, it becomes a conversation that both of us can grow from.
I didn't get the question. I think what I heard is you were reiterating what we said. What was the question, though?
No, I was just making sure that I was reiterating it properly because as I was listening to you both, that's the thought I got in my head that we have that there's a fine line between instructing and directing and projecting. Uh,
Sure,
and
but again, I'm slow with the projection on my child. Um, Again, because if insecurities for me is based upon a lack of confidence of who I am, based upon my identity, then for and I know we're going to get into this, but when another person is involved, I'm looking for them to fill a void, right? They're filling the void of the identity gap, the gap in my identity. Um, so I am slow to say that a parent will project. Sure, a parent can live vicariously through their child. They can relive their glory days, and it helps them. It kind of allows them to go back and reminisce on the years that they did said thing because their child is following in their footsteps, right? Um, but when we look at instructions and teachings and things of that nature, I think the big problem is that, yeah, and this is just me. I think number one, there is no blueprint, no instruction manual that the doctor gives you when that doctor pulls little Tamika or little Tyrone out and say, okay, here go your baby, and here's the instructions on how to raise that child. Right? Most people don't get that. So they end up raising their child through trial and error. So they do what they seen their parents did, but in some cases they didn't necessarily like it. So they changed the things that they didn't like. They kept the things that they did like. So I don't think it's a lot of teaching that goes on in the home, if I'm being completely transparent. It's a lot of responsibility per se. But again, having my child looking at reality TV is not responsible. Having my child watch these rap videos is not responsible because of the insecurities that's within them. They're now going to try to be what they see on TV, especially if, and I'm speaking for myself, right? Because I remember back in the days, I used to watch MTV raps every day, right? And so a lot of times they will watch these things over and over and over and over and over again. And unfortunately, what you'll have in this day and age, if we did it, you must understand that today they're doing it 100-fold because now you have the ability to watch streaming TV. So you didn't get a chance to see your favorite show. Great. Now you get to watch it whenever you want to watch it because you can stream it and binge the entire series in one day. So what you end up having is media and social media doing a lot of teaching and instructing to children, and parents is just providing food and shelter.
I love it. I love it. Um, and, and and getting ready to move on. But for me, I think when we deal with our children, we have to make sure that we understand there's a difference between building false confidence. So I think we have to be careful with how we handle our children's life experiences, uh, how we handle their successes and their failures. Not even their failures, but their attempts. You know, because all of these things, I remember being a child and going back and playing everything that people said, how people responded to my music, how people responded to me playing sports, and it played in my head of whether or not I was good enough. And not everybody's thought process is the same, but all in all, I think as parents, we have to be careful with how we handle our children, because our children are people living a life. They're just young children, and so they absorb everything that we say. They even absorb our behavior. They interpret it in their own way. So, uh, thank you, gentlemen. I love this conversation already. Uh, moving on to the impact of insecurities on our communication. So here's the question: what role does fear of rejection or judgment play in how insecurities shape our communication? And how can this fear lead to misunderstandings or conflict? I don't know if mine was out of order.
No, you asking these grad school questions, so I want to just step out there. But what role does fear? I think insecurities are almost wholly based on fear. So and it's something that you have to face. It's something that if you want to continue being insecure and say a thing, continue to run away from it. So when we're talking community, when we're talking relationships, when we're talking uh, relationships with individuals, period, if you're insecure in an area, what you'll do is you will, because it's a fear, you will have triggers. So if someone says something similar to it, you will react in a negative way. And it can hinder your relationship because you don't want to talk about it because it's a fear and something that you don't want to deal with. So you will buck up to it and become recluse and run from the conversation of said thing instead of actually dealing with it. So I think how it will affect our community and the just having conversations about it, it'll affect us in a negative way because we won't attack that thing head on, but we'll run from it and allow it to fester and grow into something else, and it'll continue to sever relationships.
Get it. Say the question again, bro.
All right. On in the context of the importance of insecurities on our communication, the question was, what role does fear of rejection or judgment play, and how insecurities shape our communication?
Um, so I kind of talked about this earlier. Um, fear of rejection, fear of success, fear of failure, all that other stuff. Like the of part matters not. The only part that matters is the fear. And so what ends up happening is because we have a fear of rejection or whatever that looks like, when it comes down to communicating, it's one of two things that ends up happening. We will speak to a person in such a degree to where we end up assuming like a people pleasing role because we don't want to be rejected. We want to say everything that kind of, sits within the good graces of that person. And then, really, a lot of times, what we end up doing is we are afraid that that person will see the authentic person who we really are. Then the other side to it is that we don't necessarily want them to see our insecurities. But then the other side of that, it's almost like, and I hate to use this analogy, but it's almost like a dog being territorial. You will become extremely territorial about your insecurities and you will fight a person if they start to discover them. So it's like when they start to identify that thing in you, you become you retaliate to such a degree, and you almost become combative. So when you start talking about communication, fear of rejection, things of that nature, people pleasing is definitely a thing that actually is the forefront. The person that you actually meet, they sound really nice, they do all the nice things and all that other great stuff. They're really great to get along with, only because there's a mask there and they don't really want you to see who they really are. But once they start to learn who you are and they get a little too close, then it's almost like, being backed in a corner. The only thing you have to do is fight your way out.
Hmm. I like that. I like that. Oh, uh, question was, what role does fear of rejection or judgment play, and how insecurities shape our communication?
I'll come back to me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I I say for myself, insecurities or fear of rejection tend to lead to. I usually say like the context of the things unsaid. Uh, the power of the things unsaid, because I tend to shy away from the tough conversations because of the fear of rejection or my insecurities, or I I believe I'm not going to be heard because I was never heard growing up or what have you in prior relationships or what have you. And so I don't say the things that I want to say or I should say, but still somehow I blame you for not hearing it. And so it creates conflict in the relationship, because I'm running around thinking you should see my pain. You should know my pain. You should know how I feel. But I've never said it because I'm looking for you to react to something or to my insecurities or to my issues, but I've never expressed them. Uh, that to me, that's a real thing, and I think that's a problem that a lot of people deal with concerning this conversation.
And I like that, yeah, because when I was growing up, I had to have speech therapy because I used to slur my words or mumble and everything. So when it came time to speak in front of people, I hated it. It would cause anxiety and stress and everything. And it took a lot of work to where I was able to feel comfortable speaking in front of people. And so when I do it now, people think, oh, it's easy for you. No, it's not necessarily easy, but it's something that I worked on because in the back of my mind, I don't want to do it. So sometimes I will have to enunciate and open my mouth and so forth and so on, because that fear of falling back into that fear of being laughed at, that fear of being talked about, it ain't going away. It's just something that's suppressed because it's like, hold up, I've gotten better. I've done some work. I'm able to articulate quite well enough at least to where I can, be understood. And that's one of the things we do. We will, if someone were to say something about it, you know, in my head, I would have to control it. But in my head, I'm thinking, oh, they must hear that. So it's almost you put me back in that situation. And if I don't combat it, then it'll engulf me and take over my mental. And now I'm back to being a third grader in speech class because I couldn't talk and listening to that rhetoric.
All right, I'm ready to go now. All right. So when I look at this, I can't help but to think about, kind of like what Roland said. I used to take speech as well, but I think about like, and you look at and we talking about, I'm 48, so I remember growing up in the pretty much in the 80s, right? I think I started elementary school, I think at 79. So pretty much the 80s, and I graduated in 93. And during that time, it was kind of, you got picked on if you was trying to progress, or if you got like good grades and stuff. They're like, oh, you a nerd. And even I think sometimes kids got rejected when they came home. When they came home and they brought an A home to mama, a lot of times, you know what I mean, that progress was rejected in a sense. It was like, oh well, that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to get an A. It really wasn't celebrated or anything like that. So I think sometimes when kids bring things home to their parents and they're looking for some sort of celebration for an A, because at school, when little Johnny gets an A, it's a big deal. Oh, little Johnny, you got an A. But then when he come home to Big Mama like, well, that's what you're supposed to do. So I think sometimes those kids, there was a little that fear of rejection, or that fear of not being accepted, or not being able to being appreciated for those things, and even judge, because like I said, if you was the smart guy in the family, he's like, oh man, look at him, he talk white, because if he used proper English or proper words or something like that, he was picked on. So it's like these things played some sort of, I think they helped play a certain level of insecurities in people as they started growing up, and they eventually maybe stopped bringing the good grades home. It's like, well, what am I working hard for? And I think as time went on and this thing goes, it's been on more and more. it affects communication, because now maybe your child don't want to communicate with you because when he brings you things that's good, you reject them about it, or you don't celebrate it with him. And I think that sometimes this in general can lead to misunderstandings and conflict, because it may not be that the parent is really not happy for him, but maybe this is how they were taught, so they're only teaching or presenting what they know. Big Mama said you're supposed to get A's. So when my kids bring home A's, I'm gonna be like, that's what you're supposed to do as well. Good, bad, or indifferent, you raise your children how you want to. I'm just saying that certain things like this can cause misunderstandings, because now the kid thinking that an A is not a good thing, or it's just going to be pushed or set on the shelf. You know what I mean? So it's like, well, why should I even try? There's a misunderstanding there, because the parents may just be too busy, or maybe they're just displaying the type of behavior and parenting that they know based off how they were raised.
So where you ended up is kind of like where I was going to go. A lot of this is taught in the home. We live in a society where everybody gets a trophy. You tell your kids stuff just to make them feel good, and it has nothing to do with reality. So they end up going through living life to such a degree, expecting everybody else to tell them things to make them feel good, as opposed to being completely honest and transparent with them, so forth and so on. So I think a lot of that presents itself in the space of communicating with somebody else. Stop lying to your kids and tell them the truth. You know what I'm saying? You 5'4", you are not going to the NBA. I don't care what kind of handles you got. It is what it is. Now, sure, I think like the 1% of 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 the 1% who was 5'4" actually made it to the NBA, and that was Spud Webb. But you have never seen that ever again in your life. So what makes you think your child is that special? Stop telling your child that lie and be completely transparent with them. It's not that I want you to quit playing basketball. Keep playing basketball, pursue your dream, but make sure that you give them other tools to go forth and so forth and well. In the space of relationship, again, we don't teach relationship. We don't teach communication in the home. And what the child end up doing is they start adopting yours. They adopt your communication style. They adopt, your ability to relate to others. So if you use adjectives, adverbs, and superlatives, don't be surprised you catch your child in the backyard playing football, basketball, or hopscotch, or whatever the case may be. They're using adjectives, adverbs, and superlatives as well. But then you want to beat the child because the child is only doing the same thing they heard you do. So again, at the end of the day, what we have to do is look in the mirror, right, and take ownership of the problem that we have created. And that's really where I want to stick my flag in the ground right there. Because again, a lot of things that we're seeing, it comes from parenting. And you know who those parents are? We are.
And the reality is that creates a toxic response to communication because as a child, a part of my communication is my behavior. You see me using the same language you use. I'm projecting the image that I'm reflecting from home. And so when you respond to it with hostility by oh I'm gonna spank you, I'm a whoop that that oftentimes I believe plays in a lot of the reason why a lot of us now when we're faced with tough communications or tough conversations, we ready to blow up and raise our voice and the conversation just goes overboard immediately because we've always had a toxic response to our reaction. And not all of us were raised that way, but our parents took their rise for the child to another level in some cases. Uh, and 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 so for me, that we gotta be careful. So I do like I like that. We definitely gotta be careful with how we how we treat the way our children react. And I think some of that is understanding because I know Roland always says sometimes, uh, if I tell you I'm a poppy, I'm a poppy because I'm not gonna make a promise you ain't gonna keep. But on the same token, you hear him say, I don't like spanking my kids over everything. And I think that comes with understanding. Sometimes we have to understand why our children are doing what they're doing. They are reacting in some cases to what they see or what they've been taught. And so how we handle that is very important to how they will handle and their reaction, and make them afraid sometimes to even react truly how they want to react to things or say what they want to say because they're afraid of retaliation. And I think that leads us right into what we're talking about. So uh, I appreciate it. Can we bring up Miss Verlene's question real quick? So Ms. Verlene asked to the panel, does coach, of course, we gotta give coaches his time now. So, does coach or the panel know how to get someone to open up and have a real conversation? And I'm believing that in the context of someone who shuts down probably because of their insecurities. Uh, so is there a way as a partner to get someone to open up and to communicate with us better? Or is that something that they have to deal with?
My initial response is this: why does this person not want to open up to you? Two reasons: it's either them or it's you. Just saying. So now let's get to this question part, right? So how, if the person is not going to open up, they're not going to open up. If someone doesn't want to open up, there's really nothing you can do to get them to open up, you know. However, if it's something that I think some people want in their relationship, then you have to have consistency. And consistency of what? Consistency of trust and being a safe place that someone can open up to. A lot of times men, just speaking men right now, don't open up is because a lot of times that trust to the person that we opened up to has been violated, and we no longer want to have that conversation. So that's my 2 cents on this.
I think whenever you're having a conversation with somebody, you have to be able to look at it from their perspective. And most men I know don't like to be talked at. So once the conversation goes here and it's getting all emotional, he's kind of pulling back because he no longer wants to talk. They no longer want to talk. But if it's a conversation that's important to you, I think that instead of being emotional, there should be a time frame set to where we can actually dialogue about it, not argue, not fuss, not get up and down and pointing and what you did and accusatory and things of that nature. But it should be a time frame to where, hey, this is important to me and I want to talk about it. But if you come at a person combatively, most of the time that person's not going to want to talk. And if that person just running from the conversation, it may be a hurt that they are too fearful of damaging them or they aren't ready to deal with it. It's a twofold scenario that may have to be dealt with a third party.
My initial response to this question is yes, I do. That's the question. It's too many unknowns given this question. I'm not trying to be funny. There's too many unknowns. Do I know how to do it? Absolutely. But it requires me to have a better understanding of the situation and the two people that I am talking with. There are several techniques that I use when I'm dealing one on one with a person. I'll be completely transparent with you. I probably don't want you to open up. That's the other side to it as well. Maybe I need you to be quiet because if you say one more thing, you know how Garfield did a couple of weeks ago. You come in here with that emotional response, get your lips slapped off like Daffy Duck, right? But listen, all jokes aside, right? You have to understand that in the space of relationship, this is how we relate to one another. If your version is childish to where you feel like you need to shut down, then that's you. And a person who is secure in themselves, they will let you have that. They're not going to chase you and beg you to talk. That's the other side to it as well. Why do I need to chase somebody and say, please talk to me? Please. Like you hear the sounds? Like, what's wrong? What's wrong? I'm not going to do that. At the end of the day, if we're in this thing together, grow up. Let's have an adult conversation or not. But I tell you what, we ain't moving forward until we have this conversation. We can have it now. We can have it 30 minutes from now. We can have it an hour from now. Choice is yours. I think too many times what we do is we get so bombarded with like what I tend to call commercialized advice, right? And the commercialized advice would say, oh, well, you need to do this. Oh, well, you need to do that. I'm not doing that. I'm sorry. I'm a grown man, dog. I'm not doing all that. I'm not treating no adult like no child just to get them to open up. And at the end of the day, every relationship that you're in it by your own free will. So either you make the adult decision or not. It's that simple. Do you value how you feel about the situation more than you value the other person that you have now decided to shut down from? If that's the case, how self centered is that? Like, it's a lot of different things, a lot of different ways I can approach this conversation, but it requires me to know a lot more. So the answer to this question is yes, but it all depends upon the situation.
I like that. I like that. And I would say if we're in this relationship and we can't get our partners to open up and express themselves, I would just simply say it's probably time to get a third party, mediator or counseling, depending on the type of relationship we're in. But sometimes that third party makes the other person feel heard, and sometimes that's all you need. Sometimes when it comes to insecurity, is feel like there's someone in the room that will hear you, so you can express yourself. That's my take. Uh,
It's called
moving
stonewalling.
on.
That's what it's called. It's called stonewalling. It is one of the
Yeah.
things that to where if it exists, it's a prediction of divorce. Like if you have stonewalling happening in a marriage, you can almost start calculating the time that somebody's about to go file some paperwork.
Mm, yeah. I agree. I agree. Yes, sir. Yeah. If all hearts and minds clear right there, let's move to projection and self sabotage in relationships. So, question: how does projection work in relationships, and why do individuals often project their insecurities onto their partners rather than addressing them internally?
You say it work in relationships? I'm trying to piece this together. You say how does it work in relate? How does projection work in relationships? I think it happens in relationships. I don't know if it necessarily works. I think that would take because the projection has to be one sided. So now I'm projecting how I feel. So that leaves one person miserable. That leaves one person lacking. That leaves one. So the relationship isn't working. It may be moving, but it's not moving productively. So I think in this situation, it would be where if you're projecting your insecurities off on another person or they're doing it to you, then somebody's not happy. Somebody's in their feelings. Somebody's trying to find an escape route. Somebody's looking for the liquor cabinet, looking for, because this is a situation to where satisfaction can't come of this, I think. And when they're doing this instead of addressing what's actually going on and dealing with the issue at hand, it's a roller coaster or a Ferris wheel. It's just going in a circle.
Um, so I'm going to use, if I may, can I use the word operate instead of work? Would that be a similar term? Okay, so how does projection operate in a relationship? I think whenever you project, well, in most cases, if we're speaking from in this relationship, and I don't think it's necessarily a positive thing. So I think that it operates in a relationship in a negative way. And then if I move forward a little bit with the question, why do individuals often project their insecurity? I think that that's one of the side effects of being insecure. It is something that kind of automatically comes with being insecure. If you're an insecure person, I think sometimes you're not always aware of your insecurities. So you're insecure about something, so you project that onto the other person. So I think that that's just one of the side effects of just being insecure. And I think that they just do that rather than addressing it, because oftentimes, this may go back to the other question, the communication piece, or either someone may not really have a grasp or hold onto what their insecurities are. So in many cases, some people are not even aware of their insecurities. I think sometimes people are, but sometimes people often are not. So that's what I'll say when it comes to this question.
I like it. I'm gonna start this off with all work works. Good, bad, or indifferent. It still work. I mean, I get it. Um, the way it works is that this area in my life that I feel insecure, this space where I have a void, I now make you responsible for it. So if I don't think I'm pretty enough, I'm going to ask you, how do I look? How do I look in this? How did this make me look? Stuff like that. So depending upon whatever the insecurity is, you're going to actually put that person in a situation to where they constantly feed you in that arena according to what you're looking for, your ego, so forth and so on. Why do individuals often project their insecurities on their partners? I like what Garfield just said, because some of them, I mean, some of them are unaware that it's an insecurity. The other side I'm gonna go with it is that it is too painful for them to be completely honest and transparent with themselves about their own shortcomings. It's easier to make you responsible for it, because when you fail me, now I get to blame you for it. And that's the thing. So it's easier for me to blame somebody else for, missing the mark with me, as opposed to me actually doing the hard work in me where I don't have to blame you for it.
I love it. I see on thinking.
Yeah, because
I
I'm trying to think about, maybe some insecurities that I have or had in the past that maybe I've dealt with, and how they kind of reared its head, or either, somebody I was in a relationship with, not necessarily a romantic relationship, but just with anybody. I'm trying to look at, go back and look at some insecurities in relationships and stuff like that. So that's just what I was thinking about. What you got over there, Coach?
Because you gave an example that most men in their immature years have all experienced earlier. Think
Oh,
about what people say or the questions that they ask
mm,
in relation to that example.
yeah.
And if you listen to a man or anybody talk, they will tell you things that either they are or were insecure about. Like
Mm-hmm.
Coach will tell his story about colorism when he was younger. You will tell the story about size when you were younger. I will say about the speech, Gaddy and the singing and everything. So if you listen to a person, sometimes they tell you the thing that they have received healing from, because they recognize it now as a source of strength, because I got beyond that. So now when they speak to you about certain things, it's like, okay, I can show you how to get above these things, because I got past this. This was holding me down, like that's holding you down. It's what's happening is it's going in one ear and out the other, and you're not really paying attention to the signs of what I'm telling
Yeah.
mm,
Y'all got any insecurities now? I know I'm going off topic, but I because I'm gonna give one now, right? So I used to be insecure when I started going bald, right? I started, like, I still got hair and stuff like this, but it's definitely thinning out the top. But I was real insecure about it, and my insecurities was me projecting that everybody's looking at the back of my head. Everybody has something to say about it. Man, I see people all the time with bald heads, and I could care less. Like, I may look at it, I may be like, man, he probably need to cut that off. Then I keep it moving. Like, he don't know me. I don't know him. He didn't actually hear me say it. You know, it was just a thought. So then once I got over it, I was like, what am I really worried about? Like, man, who cares what these people see? Or who care what these people think? Like Miss Pearlie said, I know somebody who like it. Ain't that right, Shell?
And I'm with you. I had after I had my heart surgeries, I couldn't work out. My chest was split open. I couldn't work out. And I was fearful of lifting weights. So now, and Coach, no, we used to be in the gym. We used to play sports. We used to do all this stuff. So now I'm looking at my body and I'm going from what I was to what I am. And I'm thinking other people see it, other people looking. So I'm like, oh man. But then I came to the realization that whether I got an A cup, D cup, or no cup, it's all I got. So I'm not really concerned about how other people see me as long as I recognize me as being the specimen that I still am, even though, because I think that we put too much onus on what other people think. And that's all we're thinking about, how other people will perceive us. I did the same thing when I got gray. I'm coloring it. I'm up there putting the, what's his name? Luda. Luda had his Beijing and I had my Beijing until one day I came and my Beijing was sliding down my face. And then I said, hold up, because I thought, man, I see an old man looking at me in the mirror. And it was in my head. So it was some things that I had to work through. And any of these insecurities, there's some things that the individual has to work through, not somebody else.
I think you got a plastic cup.
Red Solo.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure I do, but I don't like. I'm thinking, and I can't really like. Let me think on that one. Like, I can't think of any off the top of my head because I mean, I really am at that point in my life that I don't care. You know what I'm saying? Like, your opinion is your opinion. You can share it if you want to.
Yeah.
You know, but at the end of the day, got it. I'm just saying, be careful of the response. You know what I'm saying? Because it's coming. So I'm not there anymore. I left that person alone a long time ago. The person who was insecure about this, you know, the color of their skin, about having a gap in their mouth because of some of the things that I heard growing up that people with gap teeth always lie. You know, stuff like that. So those were my insecurities.
Get
But
this
I
one.
don't. What's that?
Field goal. I got one
Oh
too.
yeah.
I need to get that one.
Yeah, but I don't have those anymore. So let me think about that. I may have to get back with you on that.
I see Michelle. Michelle, he responded, and I'm just gonna say to Mrs. Uncle Junior, the reason why he got insecurity about the bald head because it's already big. Don't make it no bigger on the show, please. Keep it down. But we love it. We love it. Man, I'll be honest with you. To me, it's always I always ask myself, how am I present myself? And I know where it came. And I'll be honest with you because it's something that I never took the time to really like. Oh, I got to deal with my self confidence about this. Because I just had too much life to live. But I will say there's probably still an insecurity because I'm always mindful of how I look or how I present myself. And I was growing up, adults always say, "Oh, he's gonna be handsome. Oh, he's so handsome." But the kids are my age, well, big lips, big ears. You know, I got all the jokes in the world. I had one dude. He thought it was cute to jump on my back, talking about taking my flight out of town. And when I flipped him on his neck, I was the bad guy. But and so for me, I was always concerned with how people were looking at me, no matter how good I dressed, no matter what I did. I always was fearful about how people saw me. And so to this day, I'm just always like extra mindful about what I'm wearing, how I project. And it'd be something I might put something on. I'm like, man, I didn't notice this, or I didn't notice that. Ain't nobody else noticed it, but I'm looking at it all day because I'm expecting that negative feedback that I got growing up. It don't stop me from living, but I would say that that's still something that plays. So that would be an insecurity. Uh, I'm trying to get like Coach, to that point where it's just water down my back. You know. Yeah, we got. run to the second. Let's run to the cycle of insecurity and codependency. Go to the first question there. Um, Gentlemen, how do insecurities contribute to the development of codependent relationships? And what are the signs that the relationship has become unhealthy due to this dynamic?
Y'all can't just keep sitting back. Make me the scapegoat. Woo. Codependent relationships. I think that it is easy to learn to manipulate people when you understand that they have these issues, they have these insecurities. Because now, as long as I feed you something to cater towards that, or make you think that nobody else gonna want you because of said thing, it's easy to make it to where I can manipulate the whole situation, whole relationship, because I'm gonna pour onto you, fire onto your insecurities. I'm not gonna help them, because if I help them, it exposes me. It may, but it makes it to where you won't need me. But if I'm your source of validation and I'm your source of encouragement, I'm also that source that keeps you in that mindset to where you are insecure about said thing, because now you need me. So I think these type of relationships, that's what a toxic relationship is. It's one where the person isn't trying to help you, but they're helping you stay hindered in yourself so that you won't go get to a point to where you can do it on your own, or you don't need me, but you can only get as far as I allow you, because I'm holding the puppet strings and I'm a master manipulator in that fold. So I'm controlling the relationship by using you against you.
I really do got a question. So are you saying that the person is creating insecurities in the other person in order to manipulate them, to control them?
No, I'm just feeding, I'm just fueling the fire. It's already an insecurity. It's similar to where when you were growing up, if I said, "Oh, you got big lips," and you didn't respond, let it slide. But if I said it and you reacted towards it, I'm going ham now, because I see that you're responding. So now it's not it ain't got nothing to do with me, and I probably don't think you do, but I see you are responding towards it. So when a person has an insecurity that another person knows, and they aren't really in that relationship for the other person to get better, what they'll do is continue to pour coals and light coals onto that issue, so that now the validation that you get would be minimal and it's coming from me. But I'm also, if you get out of line, I'm putting you in check by exposing that thing that hurts you, so that now you think low of yourself. Yeah, yeah, because if a person say I'm insecure about whatever, and we're in a relationship, and you talk about this codependency. So now I'm dependent on you to either help me get out of it, encourage me, but you're not really encouraging me unless you're helping me get out. You're encouraging me to stay in. When you oh, you all right. Oh, you know, all that little pacification move. You know that doesn't help a person. All that does is allow a person to stay where they are.
So
So
let me
go
make
ahead.
sure I'm understanding, because I want to I want to make sure I'm hearing. So, and maybe I miss, and I'm only asking for clarity. I'm not sharpshooting.
Gotcha.
So, if this person is insecure and they need my positive affirmations about themselves to validate themselves, me not giving it to them means that I am manipulating them.
No,
Okay.
no, not at all. You,
Okay.
not that you're not giving it to them, but what you do is you add to the insecurity. So instead of giving positive affirmations, trying to get them to see themselves in a better light, what you do is you feed that same negative thought frame, that
Mm.
thought pattern, instead
Okay.
of trying to help them.
I'm still thinking on it, mainly because I don't know. Um, I'm looking for an example in my past, or just an example that I can relate to where the insecurity contributed to the development of codependency in a relationship. And I really don't have none. And since I don't have none, it's kind of hard for me to really come up with an answer to this question, because I don't really have anything to relate it to. So anything that I would be saying, I would just be speculating. I don't want to do that. So I'm going to pass the mic on to the next person. And I got what Roland said, and now I want to listen to what Coach says and kind of put the two or three together and see what I come up with.
Um, I am cautious when I hear people use use terms like need in the space of relationship. Here's what I need from you. Because if you are secure, you should not have a need from another person. Now, I got what somebody's thinking. Stop it and go get some counseling. Um, but here's what I need from you, right? And a lot of times it's pretty much you feeding their ego, making them feel better about themselves if you actually fulfill the thing that they're saying that they quote unquote need. You'll hear people say that, oh, well, that person completes me, things of that nature. So when we look at codependency becomes a thing in which a person seeks validation. I kind of talked about it previously. A person seeks validation from another person about that thing in themselves that they're insecure. So you will spend a lot of time uplifting that person, making them feel better about themselves. So, in the scope of that, that becomes a need for them. And then, if you fall short, that becomes a problem. Like I literally talked to a friend of mine not too long ago, and they was a little disappointed because they didn't get anything for their birthday. Okay, fair enough. That's you. Um, but I'm not that person that I need or require anything for my birthday. I appreciate everything that people do for my birthday if they do anything. If they think enough about my old dusty behind and say, "Hey, I just wanted to send you a text and say happy birthday," or I get a card in the mail, or somebody pass speed by, slow down, put the car in park, keep the engine running, run up to the step and drop the present off and jump back in the car and roll out, screeching tires. I appreciate that, but it should never be to a point to where I need a thing from you. And so now, this person right here, once I have tied the ratchet strap of my emotions to you, how I feel about myself, now I am dependent upon you, and you will spend the rest of our relationship feeding my ego until death do us part. And the sign that it has become unhealthy, because it is now a norm. The norm makes it unhealthy. It becomes an expectation. So now it becomes a thing on the other side. And this is why I had to ask the question, Roland, because I wanted to understand what you were saying. Now it becomes a thing of manipulation, because once you fail, you're the demon seed from hell, and they will treat you like that from sun up to sundown, and they will manipulate you and make you feel bad until you realize that you were in error. And now, oh, I'm sorry, baby, I'm sorry, darling, let me stroke your ego a little bit, I'm gonna go in here and cook, I'm gonna do all these things, because it is an unhealthy facet of the normalcy in our relationship now.
And codependency, see, people think it's just, oh, we're codependent. No, it's an unhealthy thing. It's not a healthy relationship. It means that I sacrifice my happiness, I sacrifice my wants, my needs, my desires to please you, to make sure you're happy. And well, as long as she's happy, happy wife, happy life, all that other craziness, instead of saying, oh, you should be happy without me. I should be happy without you. So when we come together as friends, you should be happy for my success. And I should be happy for your success. I shouldn't have to see you lower than me to so that we can feel like we're in a good relationship. I should always be willing to lift you up no matter what. But what happens is if I'm not happy, oh, well, hey, I ain't happy. I ain't thinking about him. Or uh, let's see how we can make him happy. Let's see what we can do for this person. You find that a lot in churches where it's pastor's birthday, it's pastor's anniversary. Like what? Yeah, your life's about to get cut off. Your kids need shoes, but yet you're still sacrificing for a person to so that you can look good in their eyes, but yet you're crumbling inside and out.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. So great response, Roland. We greatly appreciate that, man. Good job. I'm agreeing with you as well. And Garfield, I think just kind of want to see if you were ready to respond. Jump on this right here.
No, man, I still don't have nothing, man. Everything, came together a little bit more, but I don't think I can add anything else to the question, anything more than what you guys already said. So I'll just be in the chamber waiting for the next one.
Okay, very well. For the sake of time to that question, Ms. Verlene McCoy, the answer is yes, absolutely. You will bend to that person will, and in event, hey man, how you doing? In event that, like I said before, if you do not do what they want, you just became the demon seen from hell, and you will feel how they feel for the next couple of days until you get it right. So with that being said, my time is over. I will pass it back over to our brother Gaddy and let him continue with the awesome job that he's doing. Thank you very much.
I apologize. I don't know what just happened.
Gremlins, man, gremlins. It happened.
Hey, oh man, but that I'm loving this conversation, and I hate that time is getting away. I started off nervous, but I'm like I'm ready for more. I like this one. But we're gonna move on to healing insecurities for a healthier relationship. So the question is, how important is open communication with a partner in the process of healing insecurities? And what are some effective ways to foster a safe environment for these conversations?
Very. It's very important. I think open communication and truth will establish how the relationship goes. Because when I can expose myself to you and know that you aren't going to use it against me, now we can start to say, okay, we're in this relationship together and we're working on it together. And you know the things that I have to work on. So you don't pour on me things that hinder me from my growth, nor do you allow me to stew in my mess when I'm in that situation. And that's why as friends, y'all got to be able to tell me, dude, your stuff stank. Get up, move forward, and without me being offended because you are showing me how I'm acting at the moment. I got to be receptive to that. And that's what friends are. Friends communicate openly, honestly, and can say things to one another without offense because it's not about offense. What it's about is bettering the relationship. Because if I'm down, then the group is down, and so forth and so on.
I like it. Like I said, the commercialized um folk will have you to believe certain things, and those certain things are not conducive for the healthy progression of this particular process. And I have to say that because me accepting me accepting any version of what you say that you're any version that contradicts what you say that you're trying to do goes against everything that young man just said. So there should be no acceptance. There should be observation, conversation about said thing. It is definitely a process. Here's the thing where we confuse. We think safe means comfort. No, safe should be for the environment. That's why the word safe is in around the environment, not for you. It's two totally different things. A lot of people want safety for themselves, but that equates to their comfort zone. So they would tell you that I'm gonna do this at my speed. Not if we're in a relationship, you're not. You're going to do it at the speed of relationship. That's what's driving the train behind this. Well, I'll do it when I get ready to. No, I'm sorry. You'll do it at the speed of relationship. Same thing with me. If relationship is requiring me to do a thing, then that's the thing that I do. Not when I get good and ready. Because now what I'm doing is I'm taking advantage of you. I am using your patience to my leisure. So again, when we look at open communication, it is very important not just for the person who is actually going through this change, but the person who's actually with with that person that's going through the change. So what does that mean? That means that you have to be a objective observer of reality. I have to be able to look at you and see what you're doing and see that thing if it contradicts what you say you want to do. You have to be able to articulate to me how you're feeling in this process so I can not accept it, but recognize it so that I can be an observer for you. Hey, look, you're showing how you're feeling at this particular point in time. Not that how you're feeling is bad, but once it starts coming out, that's the part that makes it bad. You see what I'm saying? This is where projection starts happening. Like, I get it. This is uncomfortable. But when you start slamming things and throwing things around and because, this don't make no sense, we ain't fixing to do that. You know what I'm saying? Again, the environment must be safe. So that's the key. So now when those behaviors show up, I have to be honest. I have to be transparent about what I observe. And if you do not have the intestinal fortitude or you feel like you got to walk on eggshell to articulate what you observe in reality, you also need to grow in the space of this environment because you also have some things within you that you need to work on. Listen, I keep saying a lot of times in the space of relationship, we're in an environment to where if a person actually be honest with what they see, you run the risk of hurting somebody's feelings. I don't necessarily have a relationship with your feelings for everything. You see what I'm saying? And I think too many times we fear honesty because of that. If that's the space that we're in, then we have a larger problem that needs to be addressed because I can't help you if I fear talking to you.
I'll keep it short. I'm looking at the time. It's important to have, not only is it important to have open communication, but it's important to have effective communication. Sometimes people have an open communication, but the communication is not effective. So I think it's very important to have the communication be effective and progress towards some sort of goal or some sort of solution. Coach mentioned earlier, and then we hear it on here on a regular basis that the most important person in a relationship is the relationship, so when you're putting individuals first, it doesn't work. Um, and some effective ways to foster a safe environment for these conversations is just understand that the relationship comes first. You know what I mean? Your feelings may get hurt sometime. That's okay. It's just a feeling. It too shall pass. Um, there are different all the feelings that you can possibly have, you can have in a relationship, and they are okay. I had a conversation with my wife earlier, and I told her that, you know, I lost my dad in 2018, and I told her that there's been times where I got mad at him, and I told her that that's okay. It's just a feeling. It's how I feel in the moment. You know what I mean? That's going to pass. I'm mad because sometimes I don't have anybody to or I can't call them. And it's frustrating sometimes. When you want to make a phone call and you can't. So um It just is what it is. But like I said, I think to sum it up, I think it's okay not only to have open communication, but have the communication be effective. And an effective way to foster a safe environment is that when you're having these conversations, make sure that the relationship is the number one priority while you're having the conversation.
I love it, and for me, it's simple, especially after everything that's been said. Uh, Communication, and that's a two way mic, right? It's speaking to it both ways, so both parties are involved in this thing called communication. And we always talk about the person with the insecurities expressing themselves properly, and being direct, and and it's all true. But I'm also gonna say on the other side, because some of us don't know how to handle other people's insecurities when they're being expressed properly. So I would say we have to be mindful as well of how we react to the other person expressing uh, their insecurities, because that reaction is also a part of their healing process. Because the moment we begin to weaponize the insecurities, or the moment we begin to pretty much shut it down as if, but that ain't me. I don't do that. So get over it, kind of attitude. You halt their process of healing. And so I think just as important as the open communication from the side of the insecure is also important on the other side. Because the moment's going to come when you need that person to be able to receive what you have for them to say. Uh, so that's my add on onto that part of the conversation. Listen, we have come up on our hour. This is a great conversation. I'm loving it. Like I said, I want to continue it. It's good, and the chat you on fire like always. We appreciate you. But we have come to what we call our bittersweet moment. Uh, Time for our final thought.
There are a lot of things that can destroy relationships. And one of those things, just like we've talked about today, is insecurities. If you value your relationship, I encourage anyone who sees this to make sure that you spend some time working on you. When you work on you, you see things in you that you may need to see. You may see your insecurities, or you may see other things that are a problem in your life. I think that it's important that when we find these things in our life, whether it be insecurities or something else, that we develop a plan to try to deal with these insecurities or these situations in our life that we're trying to get better at. And I say all that to say is that spend some time learning about yourself, trying to be a better person, and seeing if you can find some insecurities in your life. And if you do, be accountable to yourself and understand that that may be, or these may be, a reasons why you may not have the relationships that you want. And if you are one of those lucky people who have the relationships that you want, then share on that knowledge and pass on that information that you've learned, when it comes to insecurities, that someone else may benefit from your energy and from your learnness of insecurities, and how it has helped you in your relationships. That's my final thought.
How insecurities destroy relationships. I think when we look at relationships, relationships are two or more. We talk about people here trying to be connected, trying to establish connection and maintain connection. And then when you add in insecurities, insecurities tear apart at the fabric of at least one of those individuals that's trying to be connected. So if you're trying to be connected over here and you have an insecurity over here, you won't expose that. You won't allow that to be healed. so that you can be connected, because you have to hide it. You have to make sure you're not trying to expose it. So you're trying to hold on to it so it doesn't allow the relationship to connect. It doesn't allow the two or more people to connect and grow together, because you're still holding on to these things. And when you don't have that connection, you can have a relationship, but it won't be as fruitful as it could be if you were to expose it, if you were to try to work on yourself and become healed from said thing instead of hiding it. So when we're talking about insecurities destroying relationships, you can see it daily because we poke at it, we pick at it, we talk about it instead of working at it. And instead of poking, picking, pride that said thing, let's work on those things that we know hinder us so that we can become better, so those things no longer hold us behind or hold us to the wayside to where we can't move forward together because I'm exposing it because I want help with it. That's all I got.
I started this conversation and we kind of talked about a process of development where we understand who the Most High is, understand His word, His laws, so forth and so on, understand the necessity of Christ, and then understand our need for Him because um, we're just insufficient within ourselves. I think when we go back and understand that, that should in our mind create a sense of dependency on Him. If it does not create a sense of dependency on Him, then we got to go back to the drawing board because we missed the mark. There should be a dependency in each and every last one of us on Him based upon who He designed us to be. Well, what does that actually mean? Well, dependency in essence just simply mean contingent on or determined by. Well, when we start looking at interconnecting ourselves with somebody else, we're not looking to be codependent. We should be looking to be interdependent, which simply means among or between. So we are dependent on Him, but we are among one another. We never lose our identity in Him. This is why it's important for us to do certain things, such as self reflection. I need to be consciously aware of who I am and how I am showing up in this interconnectivity between me and my partner and how I am representing the Most High as best I possibly can. I need to make sure that I have healthy, effective boundaries that are rooted in His word so that it guards me, it governs me and my behavior. And I do not have an issue with defending the perimeters of my boundary. I think all of these things come into play. But this is the one thing, especially when it comes down to insecurities. This is the one thing I really need to go and do. I need to relinquish all negative beliefs that I have within myself about myself. It doesn't matter where they came from. It doesn't matter how they happened. It doesn't matter what Big Mama did. It don't matter what Papa did when you was young. It don't matter what Uncle Johnny did. The only thing that matters is that you've done the work on yourself to recognize those insecurities exist and to get in a relationship with another human being with those insecurities is literally a ticking time bomb waiting to happen. And do not kid yourself. There are some people who exist in a space together, and both of them are insecure, and both of them are feeding each other's insecurities. It is very unhealthy, and all they do is bicker back and forth. So, again, do you want to be in healthy, coexisting interdependency with someone who understands who the Most High is and really is actually doing everything within their God-given power so that they represent Him in His best way? Or do you want to exist in a trauma bind? And that's what this conversation was all about. So I hope you guys got something out of it. So with that being said, I turn it back over to Brother Gaddy.
Listen, they said it all. I wanted to give my version of some steps towards our healing, right? And Coach already talked about self-reflection, right? On yourself. Be honest to yourself about your insecurities and how you are showing up in your relationship. And sometimes it's even good to ask your partner because I don't believe we always see ourselves how we truly are. Um, Speak with your partner about some of these insecurities that you're dealing with. Um, because if they love you and and you love them and this is a genuine relationship, their their behavior, their reaction is going to be towards helping you grow, helping you become better, seeing yourself better than how you see yourself in these insecurities, uh, and or seek counseling, right? And lastly, for me, it's understanding your identity in Christ. We can say a lot of things. We can go through a whole circuit of things that we need to do, we should do. But if we do not understand who we are in Christ and in the Most High, then none of this is really worth anything. Because what is your self worth without Christ? And that's how I look at it. There are things I still struggle with, but at the end of the day, if you don't like the way I look, if you don't like the way I sound, or what have you, I understand who I am in the Most High, and that is how I move. And and that comes with knowing what His Word is, spending time and study with Him. If you can't spend time with the Most High, I don't think you are able to really spend quality time with anyone because you haven't really found true love because you haven't fallen in love with love itself, and that's the Father. So I, I I'll stop there, uh, and I'll just say, man, I greatly appreciate everyone. Coach, I appreciate you for this opportunity for letting me come on here and mess up a little bit, uh, but grow and learn, and for my brothers holding me up, man. Y'all, whatever anybody else got to say, y'all is y'all that made this a success. So thank y'all. Um, Listen, if this is your first time uh, hearing this panel speak, go ahead and follow the channel. Go ahead over to totalmindsetshift.com and join the community. There's so much over there for you to use to grow and to learn. Um, and you can and also catch us on TikTok Sunday. What is it? 11:30 Eastern Standard Time on TikTok. I believe this week we're going live on Lisa Keys. Uh, Roland. I'm sorry. On Poor Man Dr. Phil. I think his TikTok handle is Rolling Down the Street. So go find him on TikTok, follow him, uh, and you'll catch our live on this Sunday. Uh, with that said, we love you. We appreciate you. We love having the greatest chat on on YouTube, the greatest community that we could be a part of, and that helps us grow. And so we thank everybody for being a part of the show. Go ahead and have a blessed weekend. Uh, Enjoy your family, enjoy your loved ones, and listen. My mantra is going to be always be available to all those that are important to you.